What's up? How you doing? Here we are. Beautiful day today. Beautiful day. Blue sky. Slight breeze. Probably about a half a mile an hour. Probably about that. Quiet evening now. Made some tea. Nice and hot. Smells delicious. Very good but hot. Some people, they drink it right out of the pot, start sipping it down, burn their tongue, starts peeling, they don't care. But anyway, I'm here, quiet day. Not much happening right now, very quiet. There's cars going home. I assume they're going home, maybe not, maybe somewhere else, but I got some items here. Get some items. Look at this. Anybody from the 70s, even before that, knows about Schlitz. Now it's not, you don't really hear about Schlitz anymore. Young people, they don't indulge in the Schlitz. But in my time, look at that. They're talking about Budweiser, king of beer. I don't know. I don't know. This one here, Schlitz, was everywhere. Everywhere you went, there was Schlitz. I know my relatives, they drank Schlitz. My father was not much of a beer guy. Not much of a booze guy, you know. I mean, he'd have a little bit, but, you know, kind of like me, I have a little bit. But my uncles had a little bit more. They had a little bit more, so my father would stop by the liquor store once in a while, and we'd go in the back, where you had to open up a door and go inside, and they had all the beer stacked up. They were ice cold, and I remember going in there. It was like freezing. We'd spend, I don't know, maybe a minute. My father would grab a case of Schlitz, and he would say, you know, you never know, he goes, maybe your mother's brothers are going to come by. So they would come by, and they'd say to me, grab me a Schlitz. So I'd open up the refrigerator and shake it and give it to them. But Schlitz was very, very popular. It's tough to describe to somebody now who is, I don't know, 30 years old, how popular Schlitz was, but you know, it was everywhere. Like, you drive by a liquor store and they had the guy with the beer mug, some blonde guy with a crew cut, and he'd have it like this, and it would say Schlitz underneath. So I don't know. Now it's still around. Like, I think it stopped for a while, then somebody bought the recipe and started making it again. But very hard to find. I don't know. I think in my life, I probably had Schlitz like twice. That's it. But I don't know if you notice down here what it says. Right. That says the beer that made Milwaukee famous. That was my favorite part of the beer can, that beer that made Milwaukee famous. And I think Laverne and Shirley, you know, where they worked, it was not Schlitz, but I think it was supposed to be like Schlitz. They just changed the name a little bit. But they worked at the brewery. And that's a cool name, Schlitz. It sounds like a beer now that you know that it's a beer, but at one time this was a guy's name, Schlitz. It almost sounds like what the sound is when you open up the can. But yeah, my uncles would come over and they'd say, give me a Schlitz, and you know, by the time it was all done, they'd build a pyramid with all the cans they had. Schlitz. Even Budweiser, you know, I mean, at one time they were like on TV all the time with those big Clydesdale horses, had that cool tune. You don't really see even Budweiser. Now people drink other stuff. They would say Beechwood aged. I don't even know what that is. So they had what Barrels made out of beechwood. Good tea. So anyway, everything has a lifespan. No matter how popular it is today, you give it some time and the popularity disappears. Then nobody knows about it. Now, there's another guy very popular at one time. Still popular, but not as popular as he was at one time. A big fan of this album. This is the remastered version. It's an album which I prefer nowadays. That's how I start off, albums. Then we went to the other stuff, CDs and cassettes and stuff. But nothing beats an album. Sound quality and all that. They included bonus audio on this. So, Paul McCartney, Pipes of Peace. Love this album. So, Pipes of Peace, I really love that song. You can look on my YouTube channel. You can go on the search and I don't know, anything, put war to search, and you'll see one of my videos features the song Pipes of Peace. Say, 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 everybody knows that one. The Other Me, like when I bought this many years ago, I bought it on CD and I played it hundreds of times. So I read these titles now and it brings back memories. Keep Undercover, So Bad, another good tune. The Man, Sweetest Little Show. Average Person, Hey Hey, Tug of Peace, and Through Our Love. And then they added bonus audio. So these are demos, Average Person. So these are just the other songs that they, you know, polished. These are the demos. But I wish they have Say, 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 the 2015 remix. And the 2020 remix is nothing more than what they did is they swapped the, you know, the traditional part that Michael Jackson sang and Paul McCartney sang in the original. They swapped them, so now Paul McCartney is singing Michael Jackson's parts and Michael Jackson is singing Paul McCartney's parts. When you hear it at first, it throws you off because you don't expect it, but it sounds, you know, fine. But yeah, big fan of this album. Like, in general, I'm a Paul McCartney fan. I was even a bigger fan in the old days. You know, you get a little older, concentrate on other artists, but he's still on my top 10, top 11. There was a time I went through my John Lennon phase. Everything was John Lennon music, John Lennon t-shirts. You know, I went to see the Jealous Guy movie by myself. I went to this little teeny weeny theater in town, and I got a seat on the left side on the aisle, and I sat and watched it. I enjoyed it. Huge Lennon fan, but I don't find him as compelling as I did back then. I find his ideas are not as sharp as they seemed back when I first originally had heard them, and I think it was a lot of bias, you know, mama's boy going home. You get influenced by him, you go, oh, he's a big star, so what he says must be the way it is. You get a little older and you start listening to what he's saying, and you, okay, some of it I agree with, some of it's not that sharp. Some of it needs to be rethought. But anyway, this is a great album. And I love Pipes of Peace. Like I said, check it out. Search on my YouTube channel. Just War. It'll pop up. I'm in the desert. I'm wearing an outfit. I have a picture of supposedly somebody that, you know, I've been or am with in the video I made. And what I love about albums, the picture, the size, and you know, they have my favorite chairs, the ones you weave. I actually have. I searched everywhere and I found one in an antique shop. I have a couple. I have a big one, a little one. But I love, those are my favorite chairs to sit on. But yeah, so I just love everything about albums. The size, the whole thing of opening it up, seeing the photography inside, the lyrics. Sometimes they don't have lyrics, and I have a rule. When I get an album that's new to me, I don't look at the lyrics for the first 10, 12, 15 times that I hear the album. I don't look at the lyrics at all. I don't know. Somehow the lyrics change my perception of the song when I read them. I wanna hear the song the way it was intended. I don't want to be reading it as he's singing. For me, it changes it a bit, and then after, when I've absorbed it as much as I can, then I'll go and analyze the lyrics. But after a while, I do that. I saw Paul McCartney live back when Flowers in the Dirt came out. Love that album. My Brave Face, that's a good tune. And I went to see him where the Patriots play, and it was crazy. I mean, first of all, it was sold out, and he put on a good show. I remember it vividly. I mean, it's like, I remember, a lot of hair scratching that night he was doing. I don't know what was going on, but I remember, how he performed. I remember he did some Lennon songs. I remember how he did the Live and Let Die, to Live and Let Die, right? The explosions there. And, I remember he introduced the band. I remember all that stuff. It was a good concert. I remember where we sat. So, clear memory of it. And then we're getting ready to leave, and it was a nightmare. It was a traffic jam. It took like an hour and a half, 2 hours to get out of there. Like, you'd move, and everything was like it was a quagmire. Everything was like tied in together, Nobody could move because it was like a chain. And then somehow we got out of there, but before we got out of there, two guys, two momos next to me, they were like leaving at the same time, rolled down the window like you wanted to say something to me, and passenger looked a little bit lit, and he yells out to me, he goes, "Who was the bass player?" And I said, "Paul McCartney," and he gave me one of those. I said, "I knew that." But Paul McCartney was very, very hot that year. He was making good songs. He had just co-written Flowers in the Dirt with Elvis Costello. And Elvis Costello had him they worked together on, was that Spike, that album. So they did a collaboration, and I love the song Veronica. That's co-written by Paul McCartney. Really good tune. I got into those two albums at that time, and it was very enjoyable, especially Veronica when it came out. I remember I was actually in a place that sold audio equipment, like high-end audio equipment. They had high-end turntables, and they sold them, and they they fixed them. They refurbished. And so I was in there looking at all the high-end stuff, $1,000 for a turntable back then. And on the speaker, they said, "And now we're going to play a new one by Elvis Costello," and it was Veronica. So I like Elvis Costello. Accidents will happen. And then I have something else in here. So there was a show in the 70s, three skinny women. I mean, I get people back then were thinner. Women today, yeah, they're thin women today, but these women here, I don't know, they were like the typical, model-sized women. So I used to watch the show a lot. It would come on, and I was all fascinated. There was this guy on the show, you never saw his face. His name was Charlie. They had a little intercom telephone system there. They would talk to Charlie. And these girls were in the police academy. They became police officers, whatever, directing traffic. in the opening credits, they show them. They're like twigs, right? They're like twigs, and they're fighting these guys with their karate skills, flipping them over like judo. And I was like, even back then, I was looking at it, I go, really? If you train in karate or judo or whatever, you can do that if you weigh 100 pounds to a guy that looks like he weighs about 190. But I used to watch it all the time. Enjoyed it. Look at this. Charlie's Angels. Sometimes I'm up in Beverly Hills area, and I will go by the building that they used for the office. You know, they had a shot, they'd show a building, and inside these three would be in there with that Bosley guy. And I see, and I remember that show. I mean, I remember Farrah Fawcett. She was very popular. She had that was a calendar. Everybody wanted that calendar. But I see it. That's very, very, very frail, thin. All three of them. I think all three of them together make up an average person today. And they were fighting crime. People would hire them. And that Charlie guy, I remember one time I thought we were going to get a look at his face, and they had him on a yacht sitting on the front there, and they showed the back of him. He was talking. Oh, we know who he is now, but back then, you know, I guess if we read the credits, right? But for me as a kid, it was a mystery. Who is this Charlie guy? They never show him. Farrah Fawcett. What kind of name is that? Farrah. And then the last name, Fawcett. You know, a lot of people make fun of last names, but that's a little bit ridiculous. You're named Fawcett, like a sink thing. And I will say, Jacqueline Smith still today looks, you know, pretty good. Looks pretty good. And I think Kate Jackson is down. She looks good too. I've seen pictures recently. We know I was actually at Farrah Fawcett's funeral. I was there when all the cars pulled in, the helicopters were flying around. I saw a bunch of the people there. The news saw them doing interviews there. And I don't know if it's true or not. At the time, you know, even in my memory, it seems true. But there was a girl that was like few feet over from me, and I'm pretty sure it was Britney Spears' younger sister. I don't know. I'd have to run into her and ask her. We at Farrah's funeral. And these were the original Charlie's Angels. I know they replaced Farrah Fawcett there. Then another one came in. But it was, you know, a good show. Good show. I don't think they had good fighting skills in reality. You know, I mean, how much can you know, maybe if they were beating up other women that weighed 100 pounds, but are you going to fight a man that's double your weight? That's not going to end that well. Too much leverage, you know, too much leverage on the guy's part. Let me see here. I got some message I have to look at. They're asking about dinner. I don't know. I go for some. I see crow. I can go for some crow. Never had crow. If you see an abundance of an animal, like you know, in the sky flying around, that means the meat is crap. Otherwise, the homeless would have eaten it by now. And you see a lot of crows. If I were homeless, I would try it. I would not be begging for quarters. I would be making nets with string. I'd read a book, or YouTube channel would show me how to make nets, and I'd make nets and I'd capture crows, and I'd eat them. I'd cook them somewhere, you know, on the side, some alley. And I'd switch out. Sometimes I'd have crow, sometimes I'd have sparrow, things like that. Have an item that I'm going to try later. This is a I don't know how to pronounce it. I'll try. It's a Bacal tea from Serbia. Oh, sorry, I said Serbia. It's Siberia. Serbia, Siberia, different places, not that far from each other. But this one is Siberia, and they call it a green food. They also refer to it as a superfood. I don't know. We'll see. The first time I'm having it, it's caffeine free. And the expiration on this is January 14th, 2027. So it's good for a while. They call it Ewan tea. So they claim that their tea will give you strength, and at the same time it gives you strength, it will calm you down. Has a great taste. You can drink it sweet. You can drink it with sweets or cake, or just on its own. So you have options. So we'll try it out. I'm always, trying new products. That's my favorite thing, is when they put an expiration date. I don't want to buy something and then you go, how old is this? This from the 80s? I want to have an expiration date so I know that somebody's keeping an eye on that. Somebody's responsible. So anyway, we'll try that later. Like these days, you sit out here quiet. Only thing missing is a rocking chair, and I actually own a rocking chair, but where it is right now, I don't feel like digging it out. I mean, it'll take me like, I don't know, 15 minutes to get it. I don't feel like going in there and opening things up. Yeah, today we were out past Calabasas, and it was hot. It was hot. Went up there. Calabasas is hot. I go up there. Sometimes I go hiking near the Malibu State Creek Park. I go up there, and it's a good idea to plan ahead and bring water. They do have a soda machine, but sometimes it doesn't work. Last time I was there, did not work. Put the money in, and didn't say empty. I kept putting it in, it would keep it, and then I hit the selection and it would give me the money back. So I did the walk anyway, but when I got out I was thirsty, and then I drove, I don't know, a couple of miles. There's a gas station near there, and I went in there and I got a big beverage. But it was a hot day today. High 90s. And I think it's going to get hotter. Wednesday, Thursday, going to get hotter. We're planning on doing a hike, me and my daughters, but I don't want to do it on a day where it's like record-breaking temperatures. I just want to talk about the hike. I don't want to say, and you know what? And it was crazy, the heat. More heat, more water. I want to find a day where it's cloudy, a little bit cool, in the 70s maybe, but in the summertime it's hard to find a day like that. I mean, they're all warm. So that's it. I could smell somebody from the neighborhood is cooking. You could smell it. I don't know who it is, you can't tell. But you know, when I was a kid, fall time, I would be out in the yard, a little bit chilly out, you know, that fall crispness, and somebody in the neighborhood would be cooking. You could smell it, and it would remind me, you know, of like everybody's going home to eat. I had a friend in the 2nd grade. His name was Michael. He was very shy. You know, he's 7 years old. I was 7, and he got on my nerves one day. You know, me and him got along. He was very quiet. He only spoke to me. It was like very few words, very soft-spoken. He looked like a little ferret. Very small person. I have a picture of him. He has his hair from the 70s, that look. And anyway, he was over my house one day. We came up for a minute to do something, and my mother happened to be around, and he was in my class at school, and she asked him, how do I behave? How's my behavior in, you know, school? How is he? And he responded by what I thought was not a good answer. He said he's good sometimes. And my mother stuck in her head, oh, she goes, oh, he's good sometimes. Yeah, he goes sometimes. And he left it at that. And then I go, okay, you know what? When I go to his house, I'm going to try and sneak it in that he's not that good at all. Got on my nerves, you know. But it never worked out. It never worked out. Was I supposed to just, I was supposed to, out of the blue, tell his mother, you know what, he's a pain in the ass in school, which he wasn't. So I didn't want to make it up either. So I didn't say anything, because he was very quiet. And out of all the people, he was the quietest one in the class, so I didn't have that ammunition against him. But for me, he said, hey, he's good sometimes. And my mother was kind of like, oh, really? I go, yeah, what are we going to get disciplined now because of him? So, but he was a good friend of mine for that year. I don't know what happened to him after that. But I remember me and him were little, and they would let us, we were playing, I mean, you know, seven, you know, years old, and we were out in the neighborhood. It would get dark out. I remember it would get dark out, I would walk him to his house, and they had a side staircase that would lead to a door that was where the kitchen was. And I would go up to the stairs, and then he'd open the door, and I'd look in. His mother would, she was a stay-at-home mother, like a lot of mothers were in those days. But anyway, she would open up the door, and the table was nice and set, and she was always frying good French fries, nice thick cuts, and you could smell the oil, the fries, everything, very delicious smelling, you know. And he would go, he'd say bye, I'd leave, and then I'd go to my house, which had a similar smell, similar. I don't know whatever happened to that kid. I don't even know his last name. I remember his first name. I don't know what his last name was. He's probably around somewhere. But I remember he was very, you know, very small. I mean, you know, I wasn't the biggest guy in the school, but he was even smaller than me. Very quiet, barely spoke, very, you know, very quiet, very shy. Yeah, my mother asked him, how is he in school, like behavior-wise? And he goes, sometimes he's good, sometimes. But yeah, a lot of kids you think about, you know, I wonder whatever happened to that. Let me see what's going on here. All right. So I had these two friends. I had a bunch of friends in the early days in first grade, but I had really two close ones, and we'd hang around together a lot. And then I had, from those two, the one who was even closer. You know, we would spend a lot of time together. And I was always thinking, whatever happened to the other guy? Because the one that I was closest to, I would see him once in a while, you know, here and there. But the other guy I never saw again. I go, whatever happened? So one day I'm in the rough part of town, driving, and I look over, and there's like a pizza place, and he's in there, and he's sitting, he looks exhausted, He's sitting on the chair, kind of like, I'm resting. And I go, that's him. I recognize him. Same look, same head. Didn't change much over the years, And then I look up, and he named the place after himself. So it verified to me that that was him. And I go, oh, that's what he became, being a pizza guy. I've said this other times, but when I was a kid, the common line you would get from kids that I knew, when they would, a lot of adults, they would say, hey, what are you going to do when you grow up? Little did we know that you grow up faster than you realize. But they would ask you back then, I want to be an astronaut. I didn't realize you had to go to school for that. But I wanted to be an astronaut, and mainly because Steve Austin was an astronaut, and I go, I want to do that. That seems interesting. You go up there, explore. And I was a fan of the universe back then to begin with, like I am now, so I thought that would be a good job. But you have to study for that. And I thought it was just like you put your name on an application, and they just pick you. They go, you're up. It's not how it works. So anyway, the common line for a lot of the cool kids back when I was a kid, they would get asked, what do you want to do when you grow up? They wanted to be a mechanic / body shop guy. Every kid, and I don't know if because the Fonz was popular on TV, they thought that was a good profession, but for some reason, mechanic / body shop, that was the #1 answer kids that I hung around with would say. Nobody would say doctor, or I'm going to open up my own pizza place. They all said mechanic, body shop. So I don't know how many of those kids actually open up a body shop. I know where my daughters went to school, there's a guy there. He's younger than me. I guess he had that dream, and he actually opened up a body shop. Because I said to him one time, hey, what do you do? And he's like, I got a body shop up the street. Anyway, that's it for now. I'm going to go and investigate, see what's going on for dinner. That's it for now. Ciao.